Well, my name is Brian Moody, and I have been a pastor or a minister of a number of churches and been involved in Christian ministry since around 1986. I did a few years theological studies in a Bible school in the south east of England, and then I did more studies in the mid-90s. It's making sure that people understand the gospel, the Christian gospel, first of all, that they understand clearly in the midst of a lot of mistaken understandings of what the gospel is today. Just for instance, I was talking with a young girl the other day. She told me she was a Christian, and then she said, well, I also believe in good karma and bad karma. So it's to help people understand the gospel from the Bible, and then to help people to grow as disciples and as Christians in understanding more and more about how the gospel impacts our lives and our living. I think that we would need to be able to meet, first of all, and discuss these things. It depends on the context of, if I meet you and I was talking with you on the tube, there wouldn't be a lot of time to talk about these things, and you'd have just the very basics of the gospel. But I think if someone really is interested, then there are lots of different ways that we could look at your questions and try and be informative and helpful as to your questions about Christianity. Well, it came from a desire many years ago. I was thinking to myself, and it's difficult, because I'm not from the southeast, and I'm from Yorkshire, where we don't really speak proper English. But over the years, I've wanted to learn the languages behind the English translations of the Bible, so the Hebrew and Aramaic Old Testament, and although basically most of the Old Testament is in Hebrew, there are certain parts that are Aramaic, but also the New Testament, which is in Greek. And so I did a lot of studies and formal studies, but then looking at printed Greek Testaments, New Testaments, thinking to myself, where did we get these Greek printed New Testaments from? From manuscripts that date back from, prior to the printing press, right back to the early 2nd century. And then just an interest in looking at these manuscripts, and that went on to applying to the International Greek New Testament Project, which is an organisation that seeks to collate all the manuscripts and digitise them for scholarly work, understanding the New Testament scriptures. And then just being given, it's a voluntary thing, but my interest then has been looking at manuscripts dating over 1,500 years and looking at them, and particularly medieval manuscripts where the script is very, very different, and then putting it in some kind of understandable Greek that folk and scholars can read today. Well, I was asked to transcribe, that is, take a text, medieval text, as I said, the script is very different, and then to work with a Greek New Testament based text and eventually transfer what's in that manuscript so that it's in a situation where people can understand it, read it. And I was asked to deal with one manuscript and now another manuscript dating from the 12th century and 10th century respectively. But they are in microfilm, and the microfilm is not easy to read. And so I've been asked if I will just go up to Oxford and do some research work on these manuscripts, and their original manuscripts that they're held there, and to transcribe them and to index these manuscripts.
Excellent. My arms are dying, so I'm going to have to stop filming.